This conference will now be recorded.
We will go ahead and begin the County Commissioners meeting. Today is July 6, 2023. It's 8:15 a.m. and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first public comment, if there is any. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and posting of the agenda.
Renee Paholke, for the record, the agenda was posted on June 30th between the hours of 2 and 4 p.m. at all the locations listed on the agenda.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as submitted. There is one item on new business B that will be taken off. So if we can just go ahead and approve the agenda with that change.
I move to approve the agenda with removal of item B.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll go ahead and approve the minutes for May 31st and June 1st.
I move to approve the minutes of the meeting held on May 31st, 2023 and June 1st, 2023.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 31st, 2023 and June 1st of 2023. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. I'm sorry, we need to move now into a closed session. And are you ready?
We have no appeal first.
I have down closed session on the agenda.
The appeal was just the approval of the minutes of the appeal.
Did we approve those minutes?
Oh, we missed the appeal.
Yeah, I think we just
Oh,
did.
gotcha, you guys did right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to close the session.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the session. All in favor say aye.
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 It's unanimous. Job.
You want these back out?
Oh, sorry.
Lane is not one of the negotiators, is he?
No, but we just used their overtime.
Well, until Jeremy got on, so, right, let's just gonna close the vote altogether.
Oh.
So that we, he wasn't
Is Jeremy on now?
longer. Yes,
Yep.
Yeah.
thank you.
And I text Chris to come down, because I think he's next on the agenda.
Yes, I read it right. He is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, good.
No, when I looked on the screen, I saw what you were talking about.
Right, well, that was the one thing we're learning too, is like how this go-to, so we do know we need to have people.
Okay, we'll go into the appointments portion.
Is she ready?
Are we ready? Okay, thank you.
Waiting on Chris. He's on his way. He is your payday.
There he is. All right, we'll go to appointment A, ascending site application filed by Toby Joe Scoggins for property located at 6755 Stewart Road and on Stewart Road. Chris, you want to go ahead and open this up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Chris Spross, Public Works and Planning, for the record. So the item in front of you today is the approval of ascending site application filed by Mr. Scoggin. So little information about the property. It's two parcels. One parcel is 120 acres. Another parcel is 110. The 120 acre parcel has got 85.1 acre feet of water, and the 110 has got 0.86 acre feet of water. The one that has the large amount of water rights is the one on the left of your screen there. So you can see it's kind of being farmed, whereas the other is more of natural landscape. So this was seen by the sending site committee at the meeting on, excuse me, I'm a little out of sorts. The sending site committee on June 5th. It was at that time recommended for approval. It went to the Planning Commission on their June 14th meeting. At that point in time, again, it was recommended for approval to this board here. The amount of TDRs that is a part of this is 201 as a total. And so we are here requesting that the board approve this as a sending site. Mr. Scoggin is here. If you have any questions for him directly, I'm sure he would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any
As well as
public
myself.
comment? Mr. Scoggins, do you have anything you want to address?
Not necessarily, just thought it.
You're gonna have to come up. Sorry, just hit that. There you go.
Just the area is, there's a lot of naval traffic, not a lot, but there's naval traffic. Grounds more, in my opinion, set up for agriculture. I don't see it really being a home area at any time, with the Harmon Reservoir being there local. So, yeah, it just seems to me like it'd be the right thing to do.
Okay.
What's in the center?
Pardon?
The center of the two properties?
The center of the properties, it's just some desert ground.
Is that all?
But
Okay.
it's two different parcels as well.
Oh, okay, so that's not part of it?
Not part of it, yeah, that little horseshoe there.
Any other comment? Any other questions from board or staff? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the sending site application for Toby Joe Scoggins on property at 6755 Stewart Road in nearby vacant land, APN 009-131-06 and APN 009-3131-03, consisting of a total of 230 acres based on the providing community benefit of 86 acres of farmland with surface water rights and roughly 70 acres of a special site with wildlife habitat. plus additional open space, and B, approve 201 TDRs for the same property.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the sending site application for Toby Joe Scoggins. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on. Let's see. Well, we're going to talk marijuana, and Shannon comes to the table. Okay? All right. This is a review and approval of a partner funding applications or allocations for marijuana tax allocation. Go ahead, Shannon.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, Shannon Ernst, Churchill County Social Services. So Churchill County receives an RO 9217A marijuana tax revenue allocation each year. This is approximately $88,000. Previously, the Board of County Commissioners had provided the authorization to the County Board of Health to expend these funds. The Board of Health at that time felt it was very important to use that fund based on to support what the causes are from the legalization. And so we did really look at those agencies in the community that were providing support to provide education and treatment related to marijuana. With the abolishment of the County Board of Health on December 8th of 2022, it was determined to bring this back to the county commissioners for these allocations. So as you'll see in my packet, we did receive a total of 3 requests for these funds. And again, these are from New Frontier Treatment Center, Churchill Community Coalition, and the Churchill County School District. The Churchill County School District, it's a very unique proposal that we get each year, and it's to partner with UNR to provide social work interns at the schools. One of the things is to provide that additional assistance that youth that are need counseling and supports. As you know, we lack counseling services within here in the community. So they're able to access those services at the school, then they help find a private provider to assist them and kind of move through. This project was really just really look at how it would work when we started a few years ago. We started at the high school, then we added the middle school, and now it's in all schools. So that is one proposal there. They had requested a total of $25,200. As I go through this proposal, there's only $88,000. So one of the things we have done is utilize part of the social services, mental health fund that is approved by the board to kind of help offset that. The next one is the New Frontier Behavioral Health Center. They are not a treatment center anymore. They are a CCBHC. What they're trying to do is launch more crisis services in the community to respond to individuals that need immediate assistance. Their proposal this year was $9,671. This was an increase of $5,161. And so when I went through this and looked at it, I am suggested the increase of about $499 and being able to supply them with $5,010 for their program. It's kind of removing some of the supplies, not providing indirect. Churchill Community Coalition Mental Health Project and Too Good for Drugs program is the next one. They did request $25,000. This was an increase of $2,544.64. I am proposing that we do fund at $22,455. And how we could do that is provide $20,819 from the marijuana tax revenue and $1635.68 from the social services mental health account. And the last one is we've always utilized a portion of those funds back to social services to provide match. One of the things is we have very restricted funds. And so each year you have provided $76,000 to the matching of our FAST program, our community outreach program. And so I'm asking that we maintain that at the $55,000. So this is the allocation I'm proposing to you. If you approve these as submitted, or if you decide to revise, is what we will do at Social Services is draft those agreements as we have done previously, and then I would obtain authorization to sign those and get those moving. Any
How much
questions?
is going to the coalition?
So the coalition would receive a total of $22,455.36. And that's a split between the marijuana fund and also the social services mental health fund.
All righty. Any public comment? Seeing none, border staff?
So it looks like we're funding the majority.
Yeah, we're still funding. There was quite a few increases requested this year, which that fund doesn't go up. Looking at Sherry, I think we got an
you were
increase
able
of
to-
like $200 last year.
But you were able to find the money.
Yeah, we're getting them all funded, just at a little reduced level, taking out indirect rates and things that way.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the allocations as presented and to authorize the social services director to execute the agreements with community partners.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the allocations as presented and to authorize the social services director to execute the agreements with community partners. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
We go now to item number C, Resource Concepts Incorporated. Jeremy on? There,
Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me all right?
there's Jeremy. Okay.
All right. Chairman and Commissioners, good morning. For your record, Jeremy Drew, Principal Resource Specialist with Resource Concepts, Inc. This update is something that we do in other counties that we're tracking public land and natural resources with. And in talking with Manager Barbie, he thought a similar update might be helpful to you all, at least on a quarterly basis. So I'll step through some of the things we're tracking for you all, and feel free to stop me. And at the attempt of really embarrassing myself, I'll try and screen share our update, which is also in your packet. So I'd be remiss if I didn't start with the FRTC modernization and implementation of Public Law 117-263. Additional information is always available at the FRTC modernization website. But just to step through a couple of the big items, mapping, DOI is in charge of developing a formal official map. Thus far, we have not seen that. We have a standing offer from RCI via the county to assist in anything that they need. I believe all the shapefiles that they need from us have been transferred, and it's been quiet on the mapping front. As far as special designations go, we have gotten some questions about this. All of the wilderness study areas have been released, and BLM considers them as such. The NCA's wilderness areas and special management areas have been designated and are pending actual management plans. The conveyances are going to be a little bit more involved. We're working with BLM on the best approach for that, as well as making sure we have the cost covered, hopefully through SNPLMA. And Manager Barbie could touch a bit more on that, but there will be more discussion coming up at the IEC meeting. In terms of the mitigation schedule, the Navy plans to kind of phase their mitigation, and that's really what that graphic, I guess, on the bottom shows. But they're going to start with the things they need to do in Dixie Valley, which is primarily purchasing of property and water rights. And then their plan is to move to B16, B17, and end with B20. One of the big portions of the mitigation is all the road realignment and reconstruction. And at this point, they're all pending design, funding, and in some cases, environmental clearances for the roads that need to go on to BLM lands. One note on this, and it actually came out on Monday after we had published the support material, but NDOT will be hosting an open house public meeting at the Fallon Convention Center on July 18th from 4 to 7 p.m. with a formal presentation at 5:30. And that is to talk specifically about alternatives for realigning State Route 361 or the Gabbs Highway. That's going to be obviously a big lift for everyone involved. And so this is kind of the first item to start addressing that issue. Probably something those who are interested would be worthwhile to attend. If you can't attend or you're conflicted out on July 18th, they actually have an online link to a virtual public meeting. I'm not sure what that looks like, and you can provide comments through that website through August 4th. So certainly something we will be taking a look at between now and August 4th. The other question we've got is in regards to the Navy withdrawal. Obviously, that is authorized and was when the NDAA passed. However, as you'll recall, operational use of those ranges is pending completion of all their mitigation obligations, which, again, if you look at the graphic, there's a fair amount of things going on. And so we don't anticipate those areas to be closed to the public for some time, at least at Bravo ranges that are scheduled to be closed. So that's a quick update on the Fallon Range. Chairman, I know that's a big issue, so maybe I'll pause here in case there's any questions specific to FRTC before I move into the broader DOI items.
Jeremy, this is Buzz. I think at the next IEC meeting, we're going to bring up the timeline for transferring of the checkerboard to the county. I don't know if they're going to have any work done on that at all, BLM, but I'm just wondering if you know anything about that.
Jeremy, I'll jump in if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The stage that we're at now is they had released, after the SNPLMA statewide executive board meeting in May, they had brought forward a proposed cost schedule for transfer of checkerboard, creating a budget line item in the SNPLMA fund to do that work. They had suggested around $1,500 an acre, or roughly $8 million a section of land, which was perplexing in that that property's a section of land right now is, with no infrastructure, amenities, anything on it, is probably worth about 60 grand total. So doesn't make a lot of sense. So one of the things that I'd requested through Chair Gokachia is that they provide a update not only on the checkerboard process development, but also on how they're deriving this cost, because that would represent a little over $400 million based on the number of federal sections that are within the checkerboard exchange area. So seems a bit unreasonable and unrealistic, and so we're going to try to see if we could get clarity on that August 8th meeting. So I'm not sure what they'll have to present at that point, but they have put enough time and thought into it to create a line item for budgeting within SNPLMA.
Okay, thank you.
And Chairman, I will be available to attend that August 8th meeting. I'll be curious to see the show of math on how that figure was derived, because I, like County Manager Barbie, believe that number to be pretty significantly high. So outside of FRTC, there's actually a ton going on in regards to access, recreation, and transportation. Really, FRTC is king in the county as far as those sorts of issues go. On land use and planning, Department of Interior and Bureau of Land Management have declared this rule writing season, and so they came out several months ago with a proposed rule on what they're calling conservation and land health, and I know this is coming up for ratification of a comment letter going forward, so I won't talk a lot about this other than to say that we did submit comment before the deadline and the subsequent extension for Churchill County, and we can talk about that a little bit more under the next agenda item. They're also proposing a rule on renewable energy and rights of way, which is how they authorize solar and wind type projects. as well as transmission, I should say. The punchline on this, and I actually need to dig into this because I think it could have bearing for Churchill County as well as other rural counties that are seeing a real influx of interest in renewable energy. But they're actually proposing like an 80% reduction in the cost of right-of-way for renewable energy projects. And if you recall, solar and wind generate very little direct revenue to the county or royalties like geothermal pays. And so really all the county's getting on that sort of project is the cost of construction and goods and whatever jobs those sorts of projects generate. This is going to become, I think, a bigger issue for Churchill County as we see GreenLink North move further through the programming and the NEPA process. And representing White Pine County on similar issues, they've got a couple power lines that are a year or two ahead of GreenLink. And they're already seeing, I think BLM has 13 total applications that they've accepted and probably the same amount that have been filed that they haven't accepted. So I think with GreenLink North will come a lot more interest in renewable energy. And so we will work with Manager Barbie on reviewing this rule. And if it's something we want to comment on, that may be coming forward at a future meeting. Dovetailed in with that, the BLM is also moving forward with a programmatic EIS update on their solar program. So essentially they're looking at additional states and additional areas where they believe that solar is appropriate for development on BLM lands. Quite frankly, in Churchill County, particularly in the checkerboard, I think there's a big opportunity for that sort of development to occur. And so that's something we're keeping an eye on as a cooperating agency. Kind of on the opposite side of that, BLM's also moving forward with version 3 plan amendment for deadline. And then the last page is primarily future items and meetings that are coming up. FRTC, we mentioned, is August 8th. I will plan to be there. I believe that's scheduled for Fallon. Central Nevada Regional Water Authority actually meets in your chambers tomorrow. NACO has a monthly Public Land and Natural Resource Committee meeting for anyone that's interested. Those dates are listed, and there is a virtual option for commissioners to participate. And then the next Sagebrush Ecosystem Council meeting, which obviously dovetails into BLM's efforts, is in Winnemucca, along with a field tour in mid-August. So Chair, that's probably a long-winded update for the first one, but wanted to give everyone a chance to see what we're working on to some degree behind the scenes. And once again, I'm more than happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Any public comment? Yeah, Dean.
Dean Patterson, Public Works and Planning. Hi, Jeremy. I was very interested in your description of different things going on. The master plan for Churchill County has a chapter 12 that that talks about natural resources and has been on a hold for about 10 years, I think, for development of a number of big items, namely the BLM resource plan and the Navy range expansion. So now that the range expansion is done, I guess BLM is working toward their resource plan. Did they have an estimate of when that might be done?
Yeah, great question, Dean. They don't. They actually started down this road 2 or 3 years ago with the anticipation that they'd be able to complete it in 2 years. I think that's super ambitious. I think even if they got the funding tomorrow, I don't view them being done with that in a 2-year time period, quite frankly. So One, they don't know if and when the rest of the funding is going to come. And two, I would say once they formally kick it off, you're probably looking at a 2 to 4 year time frame. As far as the master plan and section 12 goes, or chapter 12, that is still a very good plan in my opinion. It's probably something we should look at for update. That's originally what we were going to do before the whole Navy issue blew up right after we got put on contract. So certainly something that should remain on our mind to update, but I did actually just cite out of that for some of our comments. And overall, I think it's still a very good and pertinent document. There's probably some fine tuning we need to do, but I don't think, you know, we're in need of a full scale rewrite at this point.
Okay, that's good to hear. Just for your information, for both the board and you, the master plan is due to be updated in 2025. It often wraps up at the end of that year. So we would probably start looking at, you know, beginning the update at the end of this year. But we haven't, you know, finalized any details, but it would be nice to get that finally wrapped up. But, you know, whether that
Yeah,
gets to happen, I don't know.
I think those timeframes look really good. And at the same time, like I said, what's in chapter 12 now provides a pretty good framework for me to work from anytime I sit down to write, you know, some sort of comment letter on any sort of project or planning policy. That provides a pretty good guideline and sideboards for me. So I think, you know, updating that along your guidelines for the 2025 update probably makes a lot of sense. I don't see any reason that we would need to fast track that at this point, unless you or the commissioners do.
Okay, Dean. Any other public comment? Board or staff? Jeremy, the Clan Alpine gathering, horse gathering, do you know how many horses they're going to gather?
I can't recall, Chairman. I haven't looked at that recently. I know they're way over AML, and we actually were doing some field work out there last summer, and there were some places that were in really rough shape. I know it's been a good year from a forage standpoint, but quite frankly, they're way over allocated. I just don't know the specific numbers, but I can certainly get those for you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Jeremy, are you going to stay on for this next item?
I am, and before we close this item, just a couple of quick questions. I provided web links for, you know, additional information on all these items. If you would like, I just don't want to stuff your agenda packet too full, but if you want PDF copies, you know, of any sorts of updates, for example, there's like a 2-page sage-grouse update, public update on where they're going with that. You know, I can include that in future updates. If there's other things the commissioners would like to see or questions, you can email me or call me anytime and I can get you more specifics. But just curious if you'd like to see a little bit more information in future updates in terms of backup, or whether the websites are sufficient for now.
Thank you, Jeremy, for that. We'll move on to the next item, item D. This is consideration possible action ratification of a comment letter to the Bureau of Land Management proposed rule regarding conservation and landscape health. Jim or Jeremy, either of you want to talk about this?
I'm prepared to go unless Jim would like to lead off.
Go, man, go.
Go ahead.
Chairman, for your record, Jeremy Drew with Resource Concepts. This is an issue that we had been tracking closely along with NACO and other state and other counties. Quite frankly, we attended both a virtual meeting that BLM held, or workshop, I guess, and then they also held a workshop in Reno where brass from DC, BLM staff came out and kind of explained what they were trying to do with this. It's a little bit unique in that it's a proposed rule, which does have some political durability across administrations, if you will, and I think that's why they were going this route. But essentially what they were doing is kind of defining conservation. And the thing that really made me nervous and that I felt was inconsistent with Chapter 12 of the county's master plan is that they define conservation pretty strictly as quote-unquote preservation or restoration. In my opinion, those are the exact wrong issues or means of approaching a lot of the issues we have on public lands, whether that's to address wildfire, invasive species, or the overpopulation of horses. And so immediately upon reading that definition, I thought it kind of flew in the face of what the county supports more in terms of multiple use management. And so I felt it was important to draft a letter. And again, we leaned heavily on Chapter 12 of the master plan to convey what Churchill County believes should be happening on public lands in terms of multiple use. Also, they were looking at proposing new means of designating and nominating areas of critical environmental concern, or ACECs. That would include interim designations. Typically, you have to do designations through a resource management plan update. There were some of those proposed in the last round that county staff looked at before our time with the county. And there was a public process, and you kind of looked at those sorts of designations cumulatively. Anytime you talk about interim designations and interim management, I get really, really nervous. The other new thing that they were proposing is this concept of conservation leases. And essentially an individual, an NGO, or other party could apply for a conservation lease and essentially implement restoration type projects, potentially at the expense of other authorized uses. That was something that raised the ire of state, local governments, and a lot of other groups. The interesting thing on that is they indicated that states were looking for more durability on mitigation. So, renewable project X comes in and develops on one parcel of public land. The concept is they could get a conservation lease on another parcel of land and put mitigation on that piece of land. But what was interesting is of all the entities that could qualify under a conservation lease, state and local government were not included in that list. And so again, kind of a big red flag for me. In doing that, they were going to designate conservation as quote unquote a use, but it would have been a non-use. And so the whole rule, when you started really digging into it, kind of became nonsensical in a sense. And I think you'll see that in the letter that we prepared and that County Manager Barbie signed. The timeframes on that got a little bit crunched. I missed your previous meeting, and the minute we got the letter done, they issued a 15-day extension. So I apologize that we didn't bring the letter forward sooner in regards to something that you could approve, but we wanted to make sure that we were on the record. And again, we really leaned on that Chapter 12 of the master plan to advocate for more of them, basically asking, hey, please withdraw the rule. Quite frankly, as relates to special designations, we just did a whole boatload of special designations in the lands bill portion of the NDAA. And if you need mitigation projects that are more durable, we've got about 250,000 acres of special designation where those projects could go and that have already been withdrawn for multiple use. And so that's kind of the flavor of the letter, Chair. I'm happy to answer questions or step through it or turn it over to Manager Barbie for anything I may have missed.
All right, thanks, Jeremy. Any public comment? Seeing none, board or staff? Jim, did he clarify everything that
As
is
usual.
in the letter?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to ratify a comment letter to the Bureau of Land Management, proposed rule regarding conservation and landscape health.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify a comment letter to the Bureau of Land Management's proposed rule regarding conservation and landscape health. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
We got one more item here that you might want to be involved in. Approval of a scoping comment letter to the Bureau of Land Management's environmental impact statement for Greenlink North 500 kV transmission line. Jeremy?
Okay, Chair, so again, for your record, Jeremy Drew, Principal Resource Specialist with RCI. This is one that we were able to get processed in time for approval and not ratification, so I'm more than open to comments on the draft letter at this point. What you have up on your screen is the proposed routing of the 500 kV line, and this map, and BLM admitted this as much in the meeting a couple weeks ago, doesn't show the updated land designations for wilderness study or the new naval expansions, although I don't think either of those issues will change what they're trying to do. BLM is processing a request from NV Energy to build this new 500 kV line that generally runs parallel with Highway 50 and follows existing high capacity transmission lines across the county. Again, on the map, kind of that teal color that runs basically crosses Highway 50 coming into the county from the east, and then crosses again just about Cold Springs, runs across the Dixie Valley training area in the Dixie Valley, and then comes through south of town is the proposed alignment. They do have an alternative alignment that would basically kick north through Eureka County to I-80 and then come back along I-80 down into Churchill County. I don't think that line is going to be feasible or that alternative. Manager Barbie mentioned the exorbitant costs associated with some of the land transfers. The cost associated with the increased length of that power line is significant, and I just don't see that happening. For the most part, I don't think there's a lot of conflict with the proposed alignment, with one exception. And if the map updated on your screen, just south of town, their proposed alignment is this dashed gray line, and you can see the dashed blue line shows the existing alignment. And what they were trying to do is stay in parallel with that. But in doing so, they cross over the Fallon landfill, and then they cross over several sections of land that we identified through the lands bill as recreation and public purpose, primarily because of the potential or the known gravel resource there. In fact, there's a couple existing gravel pits. In talking with Gary Fawkes, he felt that that was kind of an incompatible use. Obviously, you don't want to be working under 500 kV lines if you can help it. So we are proposing two potential reroutes, one to go south of those proposed conveyances, and one is actually to follow the designated corridor north into the Bureau of Rec Land. I have had a discussion with NV Energy and Powers Engineering, who's doing the actual detailed line design on this, but it's certainly something that we want to tab as part of our comment letter. Those are kind of the mapping updates, Chair. I'm more than happy to step through the letter or answer questions if you or the commission would like. Obviously, it's been in your packet, so I'll pause for a minute in case there's any questions on the maps, or if you'd like me to get into more detail on the draft comment letter.
Thanks, Jeremy. Any public comment? Board or staff, any questions? I think we're in fairly good shape with this, Jeremy. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the draft scoping comment letter to the Bureau of Land Management, EIS, for the Greenlink North Transmission Line.
Second.
It's been moved to approve the draft scoping comment letter to the Bureau of Land Management's EIS for the Greenlink North Transmission Line. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Letters received. Does anybody want to pull anything out of letters received? All right, we'll move on to new business then. New business A.
Excuse me. This is my item. This is just a resolution to add the 0.5 cents to the allocation to the cooperative extension in the tax roll.
Any public comment? Board or staff, any questions? Entertain a motion.
I move to adopt Resolution 8-2023, assigning an additional portion of the ad valorem tax levy in support of the cooperative extension for fiscal year 2023-2024, and to direct the comptroller to include it in the final budget to the Department of Taxation as required by Nevada revised statute.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt Resolution 8-2023, assigning an additional portion of the ad valorem tax levy in support of cooperative extension for 2023 and 2024. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. B is not going to be on the agenda. We'll move on to C.
Hi, this is my item. This is the annual summary of fiscal report that's required by NRS to be published in the paper, and then it's also required to be brought before the board.
Was it done? It was done. It was done. Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, board or staff, any questions? Entertain a motion.
I move to note in the minutes that the report has been filed and published in the local newspaper in accordance with NAC 354.561.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to note in the minutes that the report has been filed and published in the local newspaper in accordance with NAC 354.561. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll go on to D.
Okay, this is the federal PILT that we get every year for our public lands that are federally held. The budget for this item was approximately $3.1 million. It came in under budget. I had budgeted high because I thought the COVID money was going to be included in that. That was a separate amount, and we are getting that money. That was not clawed back during the last legislation, so that's a wonderful thing. So, but anyway, how I'd like to apportion this is, since we only have to put in 15% for the debt service. The debt service had an additional $80,000 in it, and I'd like to move some of that savings up to Parks and Rec, and then the remaining decrease would be to the general fund. So general fund's getting $3.1 million approximately, Parks and Rec $600,000, Public Library $250,000, Risk Management $50,000, compensated absences would get $175,000, and debt service would get approximately $419,000. If you approve of this allocation, that would be great. Thank you.
Any public comment? Seeing none, any questions from board or staff? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to note the receipt of the fiscal year 2023 federal payment in lieu of taxes and to approve the apportionate amount to the funds as recommended by the comptroller.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the apportionment of the fiscal year 2023 federal payment in lieu of taxes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous again. Okay, we'll go on and consideration for possible action, approval of the water rights deed with GM Fallon Land Investments, LLC, returning banking water rights in the amount of 2.5 acre-feet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Sanford for the record. GM Land Investments is the holding company for the Fallon River Park development. That development terminated in October of 2022. Earlier this year in February, they had requested 147.5 acre-feet of water out of the 150 they had banked to be returned, and we had done that. This is a request for the remaining 2.5 acre-feet. part of their banking agreement is if they do request a return, we would agree to return it. So this is a deed accomplishing that.
Thanks, Joe. Any public comment? Seeing none, any questions, board or staff? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve and to direct the chair to sign the water rights deed with GM Fallon Land Investments LLC.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve and to direct the chair to sign the water rights deed with GM Fallon Land Investments LLC. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. We go on. This has to do with the job descriptions. Joff?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Joff Stark, Human Resources Director with Churchill County. Here this morning with really to get a couple more job descriptions approved for the Central Nevada Health District. We have two new job descriptions, which are for a public health investigator and an environmental health specialist. A lot of this was drafted using, we're getting input from Shannon as well as Caleb Cage and also some outside folks, trying to make sure we've got the duties covered that we're looking for within our organization. The salary ranges that we ask is grade 53 for the public health investigator, grade 55 for the environmental health specialist, and that's based on salary data collected from similar positions in similar agencies in the state. There's not a lot of organizations in the state, so we actually have to go down to Southern Nevada Health District for a comparable on that. But we believe these are within those potential ranges. The other change is just some changes to the medical assistant job description. That it would be a Central Nevada Health District medical assistant. And there were some revisions as indicated on that job description to make sure we've incorporated everything that needs to be in there. There's no change in the pay grade for that. We're just asking for approval of those changes. And with that, I'll handle any questions you may have.
Any public comment? Board or staff? What's a public health investigator do?
It would be more of a, and if Shannon has more to add, I'll let her come up, but it'd be more of a kind of a disease investigator. So if there was an outbreak of some sort, they would do the contact tracing, they would do the follow-up and that sort of thing. But I'll let Shannon.
Traceability.
Traceability.
We had a good time with that for about 3 years.
Yeah, okay. Did you want to add anything to that? Okay. Any other questions from board or staff? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to, 1, approve new job description for the CNHD for the position of CNHD Public Health Investigator and CNHD Environmental Health Specialist, and to assign them to the pay grades of 53 and 55 respectively, and to 2, to approve the job description for CNHD Medical Assistant as revised.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the new job descriptions for the CNHD, for the positions of CNHD Public Health Investigator and CNHD Environmental Health Specialist, and to assign them to a pay grade of 53 and 55 respectively, and 2, to approve the job descriptions of a CNHD Medical Assistant as revised. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last of our new business. Consideration possible action, reappointment of Bob Ghetto to the TDR Sending Site Review Committee for another term.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Barbie for the record. We bring forward a reappointment request for Bob Ghetto to serve from July 1, 2023 to June 30th of 2026 in the TDR Sending Site Review Committee. His level of knowledge on real estate matters within this community are uncanny, and he is a great asset to that committee, so we would humbly request his reappointment.
Mr. Chair, seeing as Mr. Ghetto is my uncle, I'll be abstaining from voting.
He's your uncle? I didn't know that.
One of them.
There's only one of them.
I guess because you're ghetto and, yeah, you're all related.
There's not very many of us, but yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Justin, go ahead.
I move to reappoint Bob Ghetto to serve another 3-year term on the TDR Cindy. I move to appoint Bob Ghetto to serve another 3-year term on the TDR Cindy Site Review Committee effective July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026.
And I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to reappoint Bob Ghetto to serve another 3-year term on the TDR Sending Site Review Committee effective July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous with Miles abstaining. We'll go on to consent agenda. Is there anything that you guys want to bring out on consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Unless there's public comment. Ann, do you have any comment? Lane, do you have any comment? No. Public comment, no public comment.
I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Future agenda items? Seeing none. Commissioner, staff, and staff reports. I'll lead out. On June 23rd, I attended the little walkathon that they had for Xavier, my grandson, and it was really well attended. It was very nice, and they collected a lot of money. The little guy's got a medical issue that is going to have to take him and his parents back to Washington, D.C., because that's where the specialist is, and so they're raising money to do that. I also did a ride-along with Gary Folks on the 28th. We went out and looked at the work projects that the road department is doing. I attended the flood meeting on the 29th. Also attended the CETA meeting on the 29th. And on the 30th, I went to Carson City and attended the NACO Board of Directors meeting at that time. And that's about it.
I got nothing to pass at this time. Miles?
I have nothing as well.
Jim?
I got quite a bit, so I'll be quick, but stuff I want to keep you attuned to. We are in communications with folks in Reno that are connected to Harrah's Ranchera Arena on potentially some or part or all of that facility moving to the 3C complex. Obviously, we're working on that without any authority, but if it becomes more substantive, we'll be bringing that forward to the commission to take a look at. If you haven't been over to Rafter 3C, they have the cabinets installed now on the entryway. I've now got to sit down with Mel at the museum and see if we can get them to help us start staging that exhibit that is on loan from the University of Nevada, Reno College of Agriculture. Casey Road Mobile Home Park is continuing to move through the process for closing, so we should have details on that by the next meeting. If you get a chance, drop in on Some Fun at the Cottage Schools. They have the second building completely remodeled and being utilized except for the exterior paint. They're still working on the exterior paint on that building, but it really turned out. It's something to see. I want to say they have around 135 kids that are in that program currently, so it continues to expand and being a tremendous asset to the community, and so it's a good deal, self-funding venture that works out well for everybody. I have a couple of meetings coming up with Senator Rosen later this afternoon talking about housing, and then tomorrow morning looking at the weir. As an update on the flood mitigation stuff, we'll be bringing forward at the next agenda a request to go out of emergency declaration. We hit the peaks from the high temperatures of the flow coming off the mountain, which created a second level peak, which was around north of 2,500 CFS, and looks to be trailing back down again now. And so looks like we've got through that process. We will be pushing, not pushing, but asking Senator Rosen and her staff, which have been fantastic in working with us, on assisting us in getting reimbursement through the Bureau of Reclamation or Department of Interior on that $4.7 million roughly that we expended in creating that expansion of the weir. Additionally, we've been working with the golf board. They're in a meeting that I had with them, they had some requests of some things they would like to see the county invest in, which got me to a point to kind of look more detailed into that relationship, which was created before I came in to this position. And what I realized is there's a lot of things on their end.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Well, good, then I can say what I really want. They have not been providing us with and some things that we have in terms of commitment for them that we have not been providing. So we will be bringing forward a request of appointments to that board representing the county, but the board, or the commission, being the commission, is responsible for appointing all those board members, and I'm not sure they have ever had a fully appointed board since they were created in 17, I think it was. So we'll be bringing that to get that cleaned up as well, and that's my report.
Thanks, Jim. Sherry?
I just want to say happy new fiscal year. That's all I have.
Is that all you have to say?
Oh, yeah, that's all I have.
Joe?
Like Jim had mentioned, we'll have an update for you on the Casey Mobile Home Park closure at our next regularly scheduled meeting. So we did have a small extension on the closing, and so we will not need to have a special meeting.
Okay, thank you. Linda, anything?
Happy New Year as well. New tax bills are calculated already. I've spent the last 3 days working on getting it all finalized. So they're getting sent to the printer and hopefully will be mailed either the end of this week or beginning of next week. So.
Okay, thank you. Our last public comment. Anything? All right, our claims and payrolls. And we are adjourned.